Let's be honest, we are all swimming in a sea of information. You've got research papers, articles, lecture notes, meeting transcripts. It's a constant battle just to keep up, let alone connect all the dots. But what if you had an AI that could dive into that sea for you? Okay, let's get into it.
Does this look familiar? I mean, you've got dozens of tabs open, a stack of PDFs on your desktop, and you're trying to find that one key insight for a paper or a project. It is the classic problem of information overload. And it's exactly where this new generation of AI tools is promising to be a total game changer.
And this is Google's answer to that problem, NotebookLM. The idea here is actually pretty simple but really powerful. You start with your own documents. That's the input. Then the AI engine becomes a personalized expert on only that material. The process involves a really important concept called source grounding, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And the output, well, that's where the magic happens. You get summaries, study guides, even audio discussion.
So what is this thing really? Is it just another chatbot like all the others we've seen, or is it something different? The sources we're looking at today frame it as a potential revolution for literally anyone who works with a ton of text. You know, the key idea, according to Google, is all about personalization. So, unlike a general AI that kind of knows a little bit about everything, NotebookLM is designed to become an expert on your world, your specific set of documents. The goal is to turn all that information chaos into a coherent thought partner.
So, the big question is, how does it avoid just making stuff up like we've seen other AI models do? Well, it all comes down to one core technological trick that really sets it apart. And here is it, source grounding. This is the secret sauce. Instead of pulling from that massive, kind of unknowable data set from all over the internet, NotebookLM is forced to find its answers only within the files you've uploaded. So if the information isn't in your documents, NotebookLM just can't use it. And that right there dramatically cuts down the risk of the AI inventing facts, or what we call hallucinating. And this slide really lays out the difference perfectly. On one side, you have NotebookLM acting like this super diligent research assistant. It's tethered only to your sources, and it even gives you citations so you can go back and check its work. But on the other side, you've got the general chatbots. They're more like creative conversationalists, right? They're pulling ideas from the giant wilderness of the internet. They're incredibly powerful for sure, but you just can't always trust where their information is coming from.
Okay, so we get the theory. It's grounded, it's personalized, it should be more accurate. But what can it actually do with your documents? This is where things get really cool. Let's take a look at some of its main features.
So the tool can take your sources, we're talking PDFs, web links, even transcripts from YouTube videos, and just totally transform them. It can instantly whip up an FAQ about a dense report or create a historical timeline from a chapter of a book. With a single click, it can build you a study guide, or, and this is a wild one, it can generate a podcast-style audio discussion about your documents. We'll come back to that one. The whole point is to quickly reformat information to help you get it.
And here's what it looks like when you're actually using it. You've got your sources loaded up on the left, a chat window in the middle where you can ask super specific questions, and then this studio area on the right. That's like your creative toolkit for generating all those different formats we just mentioned. Mind maps, audio overviews, you name it.
But does it really save you time? Well, according to PhD student Ainur Atalay, the answer is a huge yes. She says it can condense what would normally be weeks of tedious literature review work into just a day or so. That is a massive claim, and it really highlights the potential here to speed up research in a very real way.
Okay, so that's for big research projects. But what about just for everyday learning? Well, let's take one of its most popular features, the study guide. The process is so simple it's almost silly. You upload your material, let's say it's a dense academic paper. You click one button and boom, instantly you have a structured guide with key terms, core concepts, and even practice questions to test yourself, all pulled directly from that one paper.
So the promise is huge, and the features sound incredible. But we all know AI tools can often sound better on paper than they are in reality. So what happens when we put this thing to the test in a real academic setting? Well, a recent study did exactly that. Researchers at Sweden's KTH Royal Institute of Technology had this really brilliant idea. To test the quality of that AI-generated podcast feature we mentioned, they had it create audio summaries of academic papers, and then they asked the original authors of those papers to listen and grade them. I mean, who better to spot if something's wrong or a key idea is missing, right?
So first up, comprehensiveness. Do the podcast actually cover the most important findings? The results were pretty solid, with a median score of good. Most authors felt it did a decent job reflecting the core of their work. But,
And there's always a but, some did point out that it could be a bit too general, sometimes skipping over details that added really important context.
Next, and this is the big one, factual integrity. Was it actually accurate? Again, the median score was good, so that source grounding technique really does seem to help. However, it wasn't perfect. The researchers caught some small but important errors, a misattributed quote here, a completely made-up example there. It's a huge reminder that even with this tech, human oversight is still absolutely essential.
And finally, was it even useful? Here the feedback was a little more split. Most of the authors agreed it was an engaging and really efficient way to get the gist of a paper, but several of them pointed out that the informal, almost chatty podcast tone felt really out of place with the serious nature of their research. One even called the overly enthusiastic AI hosts annoying.
So what this study really shows us is the fundamental trade-off we're making with these AI assistants. The potential is massive. They can make super dense topics more accessible and easier to digest. But the limitations are just as clear. They can miss nuance, they can misinterpret tricky concepts, and sometimes the tone is just off. It's this constant balancing act between an engaging summary and the precise word-by-word accuracy of the original document. And that brings us to what might be the most important point of all. A tool this powerful isn't just about what it can do, it's about how we choose to use it. And a guy from Florida State University offers some really fantastic advice on this. This is what they call the golden rule. It's a question every single one of us should ask ourselves before we use a tool like this. Remember those limitations we just saw? The missed nuances and the tiny errors? That's exactly why this matters. Are you using the tool to find connections you might have missed? Or are you just using it to get the summary so you don't have to do the reading?
The guide also lays out some very clear red flags for becoming too dependent on AI. For instance, if you can't explain a concept in your own words without the tool, that's a huge warning sign. The moment you find yourself avoiding the original articles or just generating text to finish an assignment, you're not using it to learn, you're using it to get around learning. It has to be a tool for thinking, not a substitute for it.
Which leaves us with this final big question. When it comes to our own learning and research, is an AI like NotebookLM a partner that helps us think better, a simple tool that saves us some time, or is it a crutch that actually weakens our own intellectual muscles? It seems the answer isn't in the technology itself, but in the choices we make every single time we use it.